So, I have a question for all of you. I want you to think about this very seriously as we get started this morning. Where do you want to be in 5 years? This is a question I was asked a couple weeks ago. Honestly, where do you want to be? And the challenge was given to me because my initial response is right where I am. I love it. We're having a blast. Things are going great. They're like, really, that's all you want in the next 5 years, to be right where you're at? Well, no. But I would like growth to happen. I would like, these things to take place in my life. So, no, I don't want to be complacent in 5 years. Jim Carrey, most of you, everybody in here know who Jim Carrey is? Good. Jim Carrey went to Hollywood initially as a very odd and struggling stand-up comedian. He had a wife, a baby, and his story says that he had a small mattress on their apartment floor. And sometime in 1990, he wrote himself a check made out to Jim Carrey, and in the memo, acting services rendered. And he made the check out for $10 million, and he stuck it in his wallet. And he carried it around for 4 years. And Jim Carrey made the movie Dumb and Dumber. And it says he made just over $10 million from that movie at that time. Jim Carrey said, "I was never so happy to cash my own check in my life." In 2003, he was paid a little over $25 million for Bruce Almighty. Don't we wish we could all plan our life like that? Just write ourselves a check for $10 million, knowing in 5 years we're going to be able to cash it on ourselves, right? Americans do more planning than anyone else. I mean, just think about it. Think about your calendar, your family calendar. Okay? Amber and I both have calendars. Neither one of them are synchronized. We never know what each other's calendar looks like half the time. But we all have both have our own calendars with plans written on them, things we've done written on them. I mean, I have through the summer planned out in sermons. Okay? Through the summer. Does it mean we'll stick to my plan? Probably not, but I have a rough idea of what I want to do. I think we'll be James till the end of this. No, I'm just teasing. But I have it planned out. And what does those plans do for me? Well, that's my idea. It's what I want to achieve. But God has a plan too. And how do your plans, or how do my plans fit with His? Do we factor Him in at all? Or do we plan like we're on our own? James talks here at the end of chapter 4 about how much our plans show of our faith. That your attitude towards the future reveals a lot about your trust in God. If you want to open with me, it's James chapter 4. We'll finish up chapter 4 today, verses 13 through 17. If you look at my yearbook for my senior year of graduation, this is my quote that I had. My favorite quote comes from verse 14. It says, let's have it on the screen here. It says, "Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why? You never know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them." That's pretty tough just to soak in. To think about the plans we make, if not made according to God, not made according to our faith, I mean, here James does it again. What's he call those plans? Evil. So let's break this down for a minute this morning. What are these masters of the universe right now that Jesus or James seems to be addressing? It's Christian businessmen that he seems to be talking to right here. Like today, businessmen in the Bible, they traveled extreme distances. James describes their specific dates, their destinations, their time frames, their profit potential. And he starts out by saying, now listen. Okay? It's almost like he's rebuking them at this moment. So it brings you to ask the question, well, is professional business wrong? Some would view verse 13 as James calling out that the Wall Street greed. Calling out the investment portfolio as a sin. Or is it just the planning that is wrong? Or is it wrong for our church to have long-range growth plans, building plans? Is it wrong for us to have these huge future goals set out for our families? Are we just supposed to live in just the moment? Plans can be rigid, they can be stifling, but not planning becomes a sign of laziness. So where do we make this line? Where do we go from having plans but not having a lack of vision? Where is the boundary here? Where is the line that we're supposed to walk as a Christian? Because it seems to me that James is calling us out for planning too far in advance. It seems to me that James is saying, hey, look, don't worry about tomorrow. Worry about today. Take care of today. Luke chapter 14 tells us that planning is not sinful. Count the cost. What it costs to be a Christian on a daily basis. We see planning happening throughout the Bible. So apparently it's not the planning that's sinful, if it's done right. It's what are we planning? How are we planning? Where are we taking our... Are we including God in those plans? This is the difference between valid plans and invalid plans. Are we considering God in all that we do? I mean, for the mundane, day-to-day tasks of life, that when we wake up and we start our 9 to 5, are we considering God in that day? When we look at the harvest season, we look at the planting season, and we're saying, okay, we got to do this on this day, and this on the next week, and we got to harvest this day, are we considering God throughout that time? I mean, no matter what area or aspect of life we put ourselves in, when it comes to planning for who we are and what we want to accomplish, are we including God? Are we willing for the Lord to be willing? I mean, for many of us, we throw that saying around. I'm going to do this, Lord willing. Much like the same saying, knock on wood. And so when we say that, when we make plans, when we say, I'm going to do this, Lord willing, is that really what we mean? Are we honestly meaning, if the Lord will me to do this, this is what I want to do. But if He doesn't, I'm okay with it. Because see, that's the other side of this coin, is we can make plans, Lord willing, but if He's not, are we okay with it? if that not be in the Lord's will for me to do that, am I okay with it? Am I willing for the Lord's willing? The right mindset is way more important than the right words. Having the right mindset, understanding here, is way more important than the right words. Just because we say, Lord willing, does that mean we really are? Does that mean we're ready to honor God with our lives, no matter where He takes us? No matter how things turn out. You know, yesterday we had an awesome time. We had a great time out at John and Shelley's. And I'll tell you that I would have much rather the day been 60 degrees and no wind at all when we started. But ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you, when we started shooting clay rocks out of the sky, that is not what the weather was. It was much colder. It was occasionally spitting some sort of rain, snowy, sleet mixture on us. And we're still out there shooting little round orange rocks out of the sky. Is it the way we dreamed it would happen? Is it the way we dreamed that these men would come together, have fun, get competitive with each other, make fun of each other when they just blatantly missed? Is that the way we would have envisioned this all coming together? Absolutely not. But did we have a blast? No matter the situation God put us in. I don't think there was a guy out there yesterday that would tell you they didn't have a blast. No, we had fun. I mean, there were some of them out there, guys, till the sun went down. Okay? This fat preacher left before that. I got tired before that. You know, sometimes our plans don't go the way we want our plans to go. But when we take God into those plans, and we go to accomplish a task, Lord willing, sometimes that task isn't exactly what you envisioned it to be. Sometimes it takes a turn. You know, this week I got to go visit Peggy over at St. John, and it was a lot of fun. Okay? She's just so happy to see somebody come visit her. She wants to hold your hand the whole time you're there. And I would have loved just to talk about how much she was happy I was there. But the words out of her mouth were, tell Dolores to come see me. Well, I'm here, Peggy. But it was just so neat, you know. She was like, there's other people I want to see too. Tell them come see me. You know? That's not the way I envisioned that visit to go. But it was awesome. You know, they'd come back and tell Dolores, hey, Dolores, Peggy said, go see her. Try to get over it. It was fun. It was a good time. Guys, when we set out on these goals and missions in life, are we taking God with us? Or are we just simply believing atheists? Like, what do you mean by that? Because atheists don't believe in anything. One writer has said that 98%, not that these are made up statistics, but just listen to this quote, 98% of Americans believe in God, but 100% are humanists. To really trust in God is considered naive. And so in reality, we believe, but we do what we want. Western society is very fast turning away from a religious faith. Religion is for weak-minded people. We're labeled as dangerous kooks. And there are countries that evangelicals are being treated as extremists. But yet, in other places such as Asia, some of the most dynamic societies are turning to Christianity. I I believe it's because in our planning, in our daily life, a lot of Americans don't factor God into that routine. When was the last time you prayed for God's guidance? When was the last time you committed a business decision to Him? When was the last time you asked yourself, what would Jesus do? As cliche as that saying came in our lives, when was the last time you honestly asked yourself that? Does your Christian faith and beliefs have any practical, simple influence on your daily life? Augustine once said, love God and do as you please. And we seem to change that to do as you please and say we love God. Guys, I think what James is trying to tell us here at the end of chapter 4 is God is all that really matters. There was a movie made based around a guy's life. His name's Nando Parada. Anybody tell me the name of the movie? If any of you have seen it, it's called Alive. Parada was on a plane that went down in the Andes. He was one of the 16 survivors of the crash. His mother and younger sister were among those who died. His sister succumbed to injuries and cold as he held her. But it was Nando who, with a single companion, trekked through the harsh mountain with virtually no supplies of protection. But finally they were able to guide rescuers back to the crash site to save his friend and teammates. And since that deliverance, Parada became a race car driver, television host, motivational speaker, business entrepreneur, and an author. But no matter what he does, he says his life actions are guided by the lessons he learned and the conversations about life, death, God, and religion that took place during their struggle to survive. He said, we were lucky, extremely lucky. We didn't have any food, clothes, or water, and they weren't searching for us, so how could we survive? I lost everything, my family, friends, future, but I was resurrected. I came back to life from a grave. Parada became a successful businessman. But a financial crisis hit Uruguay and Argentina, in which many businesses fell. Parada's friends and partners were frantic, losing sleep over their finances. But he was calm. He said those endless nights in the Andes were terribly, terribly, terribly cold. And he said, so we burned a lot of things, including our money, to stay warm. And he said, I can tell you right now, a dollar bill burns just as fast as a $100 bill. Guys, life holds no guarantees whatsoever. We're not guaranteed anything. The only guarantee we're given as a Christian is that when we put our hope, our faith, and our trust in God, we're given the hope of eternity with Him. And that's the only guarantee we're given. We're told a lot of things throughout the Bible of the uncertainty of life. That no one here knows our future except God Himself. I mean, we've had how many false predictions of the second coming of Christ in just my lifetime? Our plans in life have to be flexible to absorb the unexpected. We expect to live to 70s, 80s, 90s, but no one knows. Mrs. Wells finally decided to give up her home in North Carolina, moved to Miami. A real estate agent enthusiastically drove her all over Miami, praising every apartment they looked at. He said, this one, it's a steal. It's an investment in a lifetime. Why, in 10 years, it's going to be worth 3 times as much. She looked at him and said, Sonny, at my age, I don't even buy green bananas. Guys, our life is but just a vapor in this world. your days. They are limited. We're asked to make each one matter. Humbly acknowledge every day that God is in control. Plan your life like you'll live to 200. That's fine. What God asks of us is to live like today is your last. That you live as if God was coming back before you went to sleep tonight. That no matter where you think you're going to adventure to in the next week, that's fine. Make those plans. But when it comes to living out your faith, when it comes to being courageous and bold for God, you live like today is it. That those conversations you want to have with somebody, that you quit putting them off. That conversation you need to have with yourself, you quit putting it off. Because we are but just a vapor. We are but just a flower that will fade. So we have to make our personal salvation with God certain. Some of us hopefully have that locked in. We've checked that box. Some of us may not have. We haven't admitted that He's Lord. We haven't accepted Him through our baptism and confession. We haven't taken those steps yet. Scripture tells us, James tells us right here, that you don't know. You don't have any control over that. If you take God with you in your daily life, you're taking Him every step of every moment. That's something you understand very well. But when we try to live free of that, we try to live independently on our own, it's a scary, dark world that we're venturing out into. At the thought of leaving this world without God. I mean, it's thoughts I don't even want to have. It's visions I don't even want to think about. So we have to live each day. When we awake, we give God the glory for one more day. And we hit the ground running, not on our own, but with Him. And we're ready to leave these walls here in just a few moments. To leave this building. Take it into the world. Guys, I had a very good conversation this week with somebody about the church. And most of you know this about me. Some of you may not. But one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is when a kid will come running. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll explain a kid shouldn't run in this building. There's lots of things that fall and hurt themselves on. But when a kid comes streaking through here and somebody's like, don't run in God's house. Because the very first thing in my head is, God's house has got two legs and is running. This is nothing but a building. Beautiful, one that should be taken care of. But the minute we say amen and we sing our last song, the church leaves these doors. Are we taking God with us, or are we leaving Him here in His house? Are we doing our best to live each moment like tomorrow's never going to come? And we're making sure the church, outside of these walls, knows that. So we're asked over and over in Scripture to live each moment with God, spreading the news, spreading the faith, and being that light in the midst of the darkness. Are we living that way? Pray with me. Father in heaven, we thank You so much for this time to be in your house. We thank you that we have the opportunity to be here. And God, we just ask now as we leave this building that we take the church with us. That we have the opportunity to go into the world professing, confessing who you are each and every day. That we live each moment like there may not be another one. Loving you and giving you the glory for each step we take. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.